All right, this is going to be a video on common accessibility issues I see in Syllabi. Now, when I'm talking about accessibility in Word documents, I'm primarily talking about how well a screen reader can read the text in the document. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in and pull up the accessibility checker, and it depends on whether you're on a Mac or PC and what version of the software you have. For me, on a Mac, it's under Review, Check Accessibility, and my inspection results mention something about a table here, but not much else. And the other thing I like to pull up is under View, and it's the Navigation Pane. So I look at an outline of the headings of the document, and in this case, it appears to be blank, and I'll show you why that is in a minute. So as I look at the document, somebody who has no visual impairment can interpret this as the title, this first line here, the underlined text as headings. They're set apart from the rest of the paragraph. However, a screen reader will not read it that way. So if I look at a syllabus created with the template, then I can see over here on the left the actual heading structure. And if I click on the first heading here, the title, I can see that's a heading 1. If I click on the next level, I can see that that's a heading 2. Go to my subheading here, and that's a heading 3. So if I go back to my sample document here, I can actually start creating those headings properly by highlighting the text, going back to my home here, clicking on heading 1. Now, when you click these heading styles, it's going to change the size of the font, the style, the color, but you can easily change those back. You can bold them, you can change the color, and start creating a heading structure here. And you'll notice over here, things are starting to show up here. I highlight this next level because screen readers don't interpret underlined text as a heading. So don't underline for emphasis or to create a heading. Even sighted readers will see that, and in some cases think underlined text is a hypertext. So instead, what I want to do is go in and make that my heading 2 level. And again, I'll notice I'm starting to see more over here on the left, and I can even go down here to the subheading, if that's my subheading, and hit H3, and I can see that I'm starting to create a structure here. If I go to the syllabus with the accessible template, I see I have a complete structure and can actually expand and contract these. And I can actually jump to whatever part of the syllabus I need to go to. So with a screen reader, somebody with a visual impairment can jump through commands to the right part. So rather than reading the entire syllabus to get down to where grades are, they can jump directly to grades. And I can also look and see, oh, grading procedures, and click and go directly to the grades section. So headings, proper heading styles, a popular heading structure, that's one of the first issues I see with accessibility in Syllabi. The next one is alt text. So right here in this example syllabus, I have an image, it's a logo. It wasn't identified as an accessibility issue with the accessibility checker. But the reason for that is if I right click on it and I go into edit alt text, I can see that it does have alt text, but it's not descriptive enough. It says just logo, or sometimes I see like the name of the file, .jpeg or something there. In this case, a screen reader cannot read the text that appears within this graphic, so you would want to put that graphic in the alt text. Or in some cases, you could mark it as decorative and the screen reader would just skip over that. So alt text is another thing I see as a common issue in Syllabi. Another one is list. So a screen reader would go through the document and it would get to the outcomes, and it should tell whoever's using the screen reader that it is a list of items, in this case outcomes. But here what it actually is, just one dot and then space all the way over to the text of the outcome, versus if I go into my syllabus created in the template and I go to my outcomes and click on that one, I can see that this is actually a bulleted list. So what I want to do is go to where I want to create my bulleted list, and then just click the icon to create a bullet, in this case a numbered bulleted list, and it'll say 1. And then all I have to do is hit return for this sentences after that, the outcomes after that, and it will create a bulleted list for those outcomes. Another common issue I see is hypertext. Here, somebody has cut in and pasted a long URL, and a screen reader will read that entire URL, including any symbols or text that isn't quite clear. So what I did in the other syllabus here is I actually just hyperlinked the title of that text. So as somebody is using a screen reader, it'll read the title and it'll identify this as a link to the textbook, and they can go to it. So you don't want to use long, complex URLs that will not make sense when read by a screen reader. Still, in other cases, I will actually see hyperlinks that are listed as just text. You can't actually click on them. So that's another issue I see in Syllabi. All right, the next one is tables. So as I look at this table, I can interpret it. I can tell that, oh, this first column must be the assignment. This next column must be the type of assignment, the number and points for each assignment, and then the total over here. But if somebody is using a screen reader, it's helpful for them to actually have a header row above that, and actually it's helpful for anybody to see those. So one of the first things I'm going to do is just add a row above it and just give it the proper title. Now that isn't quite enough. Because sometimes these tables carry across pages, and we want this actual heading or header row here to show up on each page. And if it goes across the page, we don't want these rows to be split across the pages. So we actually want to go in and highlight this first row, right click on it, table properties, uncheck the box that says allow row to break across pages, and then check that first row to repeat as a header row on the top of each page. So now when a screen reader comes to that, it identifies the header row and then logically follows through each cell. Another thing I see is split or merge cells. In this case, these two cells are merged together. Screen readers do not do well with merged, split cells, empty cells. Another one I see is reading order. So as I look at this, my eyes tell me to go down. A minus, back up, B plus, down B, back up, B minus. However, sometimes the accessibility checker will tell you to check the reading order in a table. So what you're going to do is put your cursor in the first top cell there and then tab across. So the reading order is actually different. So it would go A, B plus, B minus, C, D plus, and then go back to A minus. So you want to make sure that you have the proper reading order inside your table. So just kind of as an overview, the most common errors I see are alt text, the heading, bulleted list, hyperlinks, and tables.